Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to replace our old locks that we had to drill out with a digital keyless entry. Today I'll show you how we remove the old locks and how we put the new digital keyless entry in and the benefits of having such. So this is the original lock on our Project 2002 fifth wheel here. We had to drill the locks because the previous owners lost the keys and we really had no way of entering. But with a little bit of effort, we got them drilled, and it still latches and closes, but there's no way to secure the door. So we're going to put a keyless entry in here. It's a digital keypad. We'll show you how to install it, and I'll show you the benefits of doing so. The process of switching from a stock handle and keyed entry to a digital entry is really easy. The holes are already matched up for the digital key set, digital lock set, and you may have to change the striker plate or you may not. Sometimes the old striker plates work better than the new ones, so we'll try both and see which one works the best. Since we had to drill the lock, I wanted to replace it with a RV remote control manual lock / digital entry lock. These things are pretty cool because it has the digital keyless entry, but also a key fob. You pull up to your trailer one night, say it's raining really hard, and you got a armful of groceries, hit the unlock button, your door unlocks, you can run inside. It also has keys, just in case the batteries fail in here. These are run by 4 AA batteries. They do go dead, so you do have keys to make a manual entry in case you have to, okay? I have the instructions here that show you how to program your remote control and to program your actual keyless entry. You can set any kind of a new code up to 8 digits. You can change it anytime you want to. If someone sees you pushing the code in and you think maybe someone knows how to get into your trailer, you can change it at any time. It's really quite simple. Okay. Now I've already unboxed this. I already put the batteries in. It takes 4 AA batteries, and they last quite a long time because think about it. All you're doing is pushing a few buttons and hitting unlock and lock. It activates the deadbolt. This is a regular door lock, but when you activate the security feature, the deadbolt goes into the door. Now with these digital keyless entries, they do send tools with them to install. They send a large and small screwdriver, both flat and Phillips tip, 2 handles. It does come with a striker plate, both for the door and the frame. Now in here, this is actually pretty cool. You have, like I talked about earlier, you have the regular keys, which you keep on your key ring and your car key ring or in your car, what have you, in case your batteries go dead in the digital entry. But in here, also, they give you a remote control. The remote control has lock and unlock feature that is for sitting in your car. Like I said, if it's raining or you need to get to your door and you got an armful of groceries, just hit the unlock button and the door unlocks and you can easily just open the door up and get inside. They send you 2 different size screwdrivers. The smaller one with the Phillips tip is actually, it goes in the wrong handle, actually fits the smaller screws for the battery compartment. The larger Phillips tip is for the securing screws on the back plate. And this is your first step. You want to take these off and prepare this to put it on the door. And I'll show you how to take the original door lock and handle off as well. Now when you open this up, you'll notice there's a plug-in here and 2 plug-ins here. Now even though this unplugs from the motherboard or the board here, this is not the one you want to mess with, or the little one here. You'll separate these 2 when you install the keyless lock in the door, because this goes on one side, this goes on the other, and you plug them in before you secure them. Now there is an instruction manual that comes with these door locks, so it tells you everything about how to install these, from the plug-in to the batteries to programming. So there is a complete instruction manual. I'm just running through this to show you how we're changing out this drilled lock system and putting in the keyless system. Okay, so if you notice, there is a little arm that sticks out. It's flat on one end and round on the others. When you put the door lock actual handle side on, note that it is flat here as well. Now you can manually lock this from the outside as well. There's a little handle you can lock, but this flat side has to coincide with the flat part on the pin that sticks out. If not, the handle won't work the lock won't work, and it just won't function. You'll have to take it apart and reset it. Now this striker plate, even though we might leave this original, has to come off because it is secured to the actual lock set itself. So you can see there are 4 screws, just like the new one, and this literally unscrews. This comes out, and the new digital system just goes right in the same hole, goes back together the same exact way, only it is digital, and it has a keyless entry. So let's take these screws out here on this side. As you can see, I'm not using the manual, I'm using my drill. I like to loosen the screws with the drill. It's not advisable to use a drill tightening the screws unless you have a ratchet system on here, because you can strip the screws out and over tighten and strip them out, and then they're worthless. Okay. So this comes off. There's the flat part I was talking about on the handle, the flat part on the little stud that sticks out. They have to match up, or your lock, your handle, will not work and actuate the actual striker lock or striker thingy, whatever that is. So we're going to take off the striker plate now, because that is what is holding the outside of the door onto the door. So we'll take this off. And like I say, we might use the original striker plate here, as well as the frame striker plate, because they sometimes they match up really well for the camper. So now the plate is off and on the ground, this can come out, and it simply comes out of the door. The door has a square hole cut in it for the factory lock set. It's aluminum frame around it. The new lock set fits perfectly in here. Okay, so I did want to mention the old striker plate I was going to use, like I mentioned before, sometimes they fit better, but I took it off, I noticed it was a little twisted, and I don't know if it's going to work really well as it should. So I'm going to put the new door striker plate on to use with the new keyless entry. Okay, so when you put the new lock in, this has to go on the inside of the door. So put this in, put the deadbolt and the actual lock through. We'll set it in place, and I'll put the door plate on here. I'll screw it, and that'll hold the back side in place while I get the other side plugged in and the 4 screws in. Then we'll turn on and program it. I like using the drill, taking these things apart, but I don't like using my drill, putting them back together, unless I set the ratchet really low to where the drill doesn't impact them in and strip the screws out. It'll just kind of set them. So I like to use a hand screwdriver, especially doing these lock sets on these doors and these aluminum frames. You can easily strip out a screw. Put this in place. Get our screws started. Okay, awesome. So we have them in. The outside is pretty much secured as far as coming off. So it's a pain when you don't have this on here secured, because this side wants to come off, the other side wants to go in, and it just makes for a very difficult time. We have it all in here. I want to make sure the door jamb does work, the striker plate. It is catching, so we know the door is going to stay secured and locked when we lock it. I am using the original door jamb striker plate, so I'm not going to replace that. The door works just fine with it. Okay, so now it's time to put the back handle on with the plug in. Make sure it's just turned off. Plug the wires in, orient the handle again onto the stud. Once that's done, you can insert the 4 screws, secure it together. It sandwiches in. It has a foam sealant on the outside, so you don't have to put any kind of sealant on here, and the inside doesn't really matter as far as sealant because no water gets in it anyway. So let's do this. clicks together quite easily. There's a little click. You have to press this to pull it apart. You heard the beep, so the batteries are in. The lock recognizes that it's connected. When you put the wiring in, there's an opening at the top here, a little more space than there is at the bottom, so you can kind of squish your wires in there without worrying about them being pinched by the screws. So in here again, this is a pain. So you have the manual locking handle. You can lock this from the inside. No matter what kind of code you put in, it will not unlock from the inside. Will not unlock unless you do it from the inside. This is kind of your little security measure when you're inside the trailer. But you do have to orient the slot with the post sticking out. That is done. Have the wires inserted. Like I said, sometimes this is easier said than done. So, okay, so now it's on. You can see the operation of the deadbolt. Here's the deadbolt, and this is your handle inside, and it activates the deadbolt. So when you're inside the camper, you manually lock this, and unless someone has your code, they can't get in. So we'll unlock that for now. And let's put our new screws in. Get our screws in here, one by one. Use the old manual screwdriver and get them started. A little tip, it is easier to get this last screw in once these three are secured, because you have to lift the handle, and if these are still loose, you're going to pull this away from the door and it just becomes a nightmare. And you want to tighten them, snug them to where the outside lock is tight against the door, but not too tight. Can over tighten and strip them out. And when you do that, you might as well buy a whole nother lock set. Your whole goal is to secure this to the door so you have no leaks on the outside of the door and that the handle functions properly. Okay, the other hole might be a little tough to see, is right above the red handle, and that makes a whole lot easier when you have the other screws in to put this last screw in when you have to lift this handle up. I know my head's in the way, so let's get this started. Okay, all four screws are in. The manual deadbolt works perfectly fine. So now we're going to program. Okay, now that we have the keyless entry installed, we're going to program it so you can use your key fob, remotely unlocking and locking your door. On the back, there is a on-off switch. You push it to on, and right above it, it says fob program. Now you have to find a little pointy object to go in this hole. Paper clip, I used a little conductor probe. So when you push this in, you hear a little beep. Well, that little bip means it's in programming mode. So what you would do is when you hold this in and the lock button at the same time, it will activate the locks. So watch. So if you notice, unlock, the deadbolt goes in and out. Lock, deadbolt comes out, deadbolt goes in. So now we're programmed for remote. So now that we have the remote set up, we're going to change the code from the factory code to a new one. The factory code is 1234. I know, right? 1234. Have you ever heard of Spaceballs, the movie?
So the combination is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the stupidest combination I ever heard in my life.
So we're going to change this from 1, 2, 3, 4 to something different. And I'll show you how to program this. The instruction manual does tell you how to do it, how to walk through, but it is a little tricky and you kind of have to play with the buttons and listen for the beeps. So you hold the 8 button down, then you hold the lock button. You'll hear the sound, and once you hear the sound, you put in the existing code, 1, 2, 3, 4, and hit lock. Quickly put in your new code, hit lock, new code, hit lock, and that reprograms it. So let's try it. So let's see. That unlocks, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that locks. The deadbolts come out, so we've effectively reprogrammed the lock. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for tuning in, and like I say, I'm not a professional. We don't do this professionally. There, I'm sure, are better ways of putting this in or better systems to put in these doors. These are what we have found that have worked perfect for us in our past RVs and how to install them. So thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe and stay tuned for further adventures.